Hey, welcome to the podcast of 1004 Holds. I'm Cory Williams, the host, or the interim host, the GM of the podcast. To my left, we have Isaac Grohl, who will not be speaking at all because he knows nothing about wrestling.
Not really.
As usual, Nick's mom made us let him hang out. And next to him, we have Payton, STF Guthrie.
Let's okay. Right here.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We have Nick Anaconda Vice Growall and Tommy Lavender Savage Williamson with us for the first time.
Yeah, why am I always introduced last on every podcast you guys have me on?
Because we always go clockwise. Payton STF Guthrie.
STF. I guess I'll go for it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was just trying to come up with holds on the top of my head.
No, I like that. That's pretty good.
Okay.
What's the Lavender Savage hold?
I don't know. He's already got a wrestling name, so I went with it. I could have said Payton Christopher Fury.
No, from now on, just Chris Fury.
Okay, Chris Fury. We have Chris Fury of the Oklahoma indie scene. So his opinion matters more than most of ours.
You just heard the dozens of people who cheered.
Woo!
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
There's gonna be a Chris Fury renaissance once this podcast takes off. We're trying to work on that sponsorship by DDP Yoga. Bang! So we're gonna start off tonight. Obviously, last night was Monday, and it was Monday Night Raw, followed by the live Triple H Stone Cold podcast. Mm-hmm. I figured we'd start there with the live podcast. They kind of covered a lot. It was Triple H.
Yes.
Payton, I know you're kind of Triple H is a giant liar face.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great
wrestler. Horrible person.
Okay. Oh, okay. A horrible human being. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just the worst. Breaking kayfabe.
Where's this damn kayfabe? Seriously.
That's been dead.
Well, okay, Kayfabe died officially last night. I feel like there was actually a funeral service for Kayfabe last night on Raw and then the podcast.
Yeah.
It's weird. They play the podcast up in like storylines all night. Then they go to the podcast and Stone Cold's first question is, "So Kayfabe's dead? How do you book?" I'm like, oh, so this is not following Kayfabe anymore.
Well, I mean, and Triple H expounds on it later. People who are watching that podcast or on the network are people like you and me.
Yeah.
The 5-year-old kid's not listening to it.
They're not
podcasting. We already know Kayfabe's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, Vince McMahon, the first one,
yeah,
in the 60s, had an interview on the newspaper saying, this is fake. Kayfabe's been dead. In the early 90s, people were still, sending death threats to Vince McMahon Jr.
Yeah.
For saying this isn't wrestling, this is sports entertainment.
Well, yeah, when he went on and said, hey, we think you're tired of having your intelligence insulted, which he's doing weekly right now. So I'm tired of it, Vince McMahon.
It's entertaining!
Yeah.
Supposedly.
We watch it, so man.
I guess so.
You see?
They always have that argument.
Who's winning?
Yeah, I know.
Who's winning?
I pay $9.99 a month.
Wait,
how much?
$9.99.
About $10.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up.
Isaac,
get out! Out!
That's your sign. About $10. You can't chant that.
Yeah, it's not
You'd be
sketchy.
horrible in marketing.
So does anything stand out from the Austin Triple H podcast that you just want to go for?
A lot of hypocrisy on my thing. The whole China thing.
Yeah.
And I understand it, but in China came up, because it was on Twitter and stuff, and people were like, well, you're not going to do it because your personal decisions about being in porn. She was in porn, guys. About being in porn, and she went back, well, why is Mike Tyson in it? Who's a convicted rapist? He has
a point.
Well, listen here.
Touché. There's a difference here.
There obviously is some sort of personal beef there. You can't just say this is why somebody's not in, and then immediately have one thing over. WWE Hall of Fame is this fake thing. They decide who goes in and who doesn't go in.
Oh,
Macho Man should have been in the very first class, but there's all these rumors about him and Stephanie, and it was all kind of weird, and so that's the reason why he got in after he died.
Well, yeah, and they have this stupid celebrity wing with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was on SmackDown once,
and punched Triple H.
Yeah, he was on SmackDown once, and he's going in the Hall of Fame. But Andy Kaufman and Cyndi Lauper, the two first mainstream people to get involved with wrestling, still not in.
Yeah,
what the heck? But the China question, that was a cool one because I honestly didn't think he would ask that. I know that there was kind of some he should ask about China.
He asked all those questions that we didn't think he was going to ask to Vince McMahon.
That's true.
He dropped a lot of bombs on him, and I mean we saw that he kind of dodged most of them, but.
And for the record, I googled China and to see if just porn pops up, nothing. It's just China, the wrestler. It's mostly about her wrestling career. If you even spell it with the Y, it's mostly just China was a wrestler.
Well, that's because Google has a block of most adult
Yeah,
sites.
and if you're a parent and you're worried about your 5-year-old, be a better parent.
Yeah.
Put on the adult thing on Google. It's not that hard.
So I don't even think that.
Be an adult.
I think that's...
Be a parent. How about that?
I think that's a cop-out. I think Triple H just doesn't want his kids asking about China.
A girl he used to date and used to have sex with and stuff when they first started.
If they Google that, they'll probably find that before they find porn. It's you used to date China, then mom, you cheated on her with mom? You're a horrible person.
And you fired her?
Yeah. And you fired her and you forced her into a world of porn and drugs?
Reality shows?
Oh, man. Yeah, so, that was a fun question. And that was the one time where I really felt Triple H is definitely comfortable.
It definitely seemed like Triple H was more aware of the world, modern wrestling, as it was, where Vince McMahon appeared to be more set in his ways and no, this is the way it's gonna go. And then
he still thinks it's like the Cold War.
Right.
I mean, he still thinks that he needs to win the Monday Night War.
Yeah.
Vince, you won, and now look what's happened. You're driving your kingdom into the ground.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, most of the stuff that WCW gets bashed for, they're guilty of right now, or they're kind of starting to be guilty of. But there's no competition, so they're allowed to do whatever they want.
No competition. Cough. Ring of Honor. Cough. TNA. Cough.
When
WWE's pulling a 4 share and Ring of Honor's pulling a .1 share, there's no competition.
Yeah. Well, I know that.
Until one of them gets money again, like they got Ted Turner's money back in the 90s, I don't think that anyone's in real danger.
Somebody call Bill Gates.
There's always that hope that Toby Keith and Jarrett are gonna.
I mean, there's no competition anymore. It's there's the recent hashtag on Twitter's Raw Alternative.
Yeah.
And it's just finding different shows and stuff to watch. Not as a replacement, but as something different every once in a while. New Japan Pro Wrestling right now has a deal. If you join New Japan World, which is a worldwide streaming service they have, February's for free. And you can watch Tanahashi, Okada, all these other Japanese names I can barely pronounce. And they're just world-class great wrestlers who year after year win Best Wrestler of the Year, Best Match of the Year, and right now it's free for February. So I would suggest go home tonight and look it up and get on it.
Yeah, so we're plugging that in case they ever want to sponsor
New
us.
Japan Pro Wrestling, Okada, the Rainmaker. I have one of his shirts coming in Thursday. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
Japanese wrestling.
Right now he's wearing a China shirt.
Yeah. I'm over there. Yeah, let her in. It's beautiful.
We're pro her going in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, it is because we are in a different era. Because before the Monday Night Wars, there was still WCW was still its own thing. There was AWA. There was all the different territories. And then of course Vince started gobbling all of them up, and then WWE became this massive thing that it was, and WCW comes along to actually in competition.
Yeah,
there has not been anything even close to that since. And it is the fault of wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Because all we're doing is watching the WWE. We don't watch TNA. We don't tune in to Ring of Honor. And I think I might be the only one at the table that has actually watched Lucha Underground.
No, Lucha's so good, dude.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
It's great because it's basically PWG.
Yeah.
And PWG is so good.
It's a smaller venue, but the storylines are believable.
Yeah, I mean, you have to because that's the one thing I always talk about. I was kind of bashing some of the IWC and stuff. Lucha Underground's great because it can be extremely focused.
Yeah.
Indies are great because they can be extremely focused. NXT is extremely focused. But once, to Triple H's credit, once you're on that bigger stage and all of a sudden your audience isn't 18 to 25-year-old males, that stuff doesn't work anymore.
No.
Now, great wrestling always works. Look at, skip ahead real fast just to come back. Main event of Raw. Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan works. No matter what show it's at, that works. But the stories have to be different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so I mean, if we all did start tuning into other things, who knows? Maybe we could get that 0.0001% of viewership up to actually not maybe not match Raws, because that would take a lot of people. But if we actually, wrestling fans, realized, hey, we need to actually make our own competition.
Well, going with that and going with even talking about Nick kind of saying that Triple H is more, he seemed to be, like when you compare the podcast of Vince McMahon versus Triple H, you had one guy who kind of, hey, what's the problem with this? And the old guy kind of said, oh, there's not problems, and it's just millennials, and and he's just kind of in denial of a product that's where kayfabe has died and people aren't buying it anymore. Versus Triple H, who's like, yeah, kayfabe's totally dead, and people know what's going on back here, and we're trying to play him, and we're trying to rope-a-dope, swerve the backstage stuff and all this stuff. And a guy who says, yeah, we know that people hate Cena, and we know that people kind of don't like Reigns, but he seems very aware of the problems, but he expounded on those. But he also called NXT at one point an alternative brand. He said it's a developmental, but we might have created an alternative brand. What do y'all think about that? Because that to me seemed kind of cool.
The biggest issue, I think, of making it an alternative brand is that it's on the WWE Network exclusively. Yeah. And with SmackDown...
And Hulu. Now it's on Hulu.
Is it on Hulu? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's on Hulu.
Because when people were talking about canceled network,
Hulu's
$7.99 a month, and you can get NXT. And a lot of people were only watching the network for NXT and the monthly pay-per-views, obviously. But if you want to quit, if it pisses you off that much, you don't want to watch anything.
Right.
Hulu, $7.99, get NXT.
But chanting $7.99
doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't
work. They should raise the price.
But if they really want to make NXT a competition, because they've talked about, and he's even talked about, Triple H has making it a road show, like taking it around rather than having it at Full Sail.
It's going to be in 2 weeks. It's in Ohio. They're planning for. They're doing an on-site WrestleMania stuff. They're going on the road.
Cool.
For our listeners that don't know, we're in Bill Watts territory right now. We're in Oklahoma. We have Payton Guthrie who works at Choctaw. You need to sway some people to get NXT at the casino.
Sure.
So
okay, done.
Payton's going to make that work. We're going to get NXT in Oklahoma. All right, now continue, Nick.
But I think in order to make it a brand, you have to get it on a major channel, like a major, whether it's satellite or cable channel, because that's where the numbers that they really will look at, besides their we have 1 million subscribers thing, is going to really count. And I think that's just the next couple of steps. I think right now they're in the process of testing the waters of putting it on the road, seeing if it still has that same energy, rather than being at Full Sail where this ground swelling has erupted at. And so I think
it's different when you're on because on the road it's one show per thing. At NXT and Full Sail, and Lucha does it too, you film seasons. So like when Kevin Owens first came, Kevin Owens when he first came and attacked Sami Zayn, that was filmed, and then like the next 5 episodes are filmed.
Yeah.
So when Sami kind of came back, the pop wasn't as big as you thought it should have been.
Yeah.
It was because the audience had sit through 5 hours of wrestling.
Okay.
It's like. And so that's why sometimes doing multiple tapings that way, it kind of doesn't work when you're not a superly heavily edited show. Like Lucha Underground is shot kind of like an indie film movie, and it's fantastic because of it.
Yeah.
NXT, they're shot like live Raw shows, and when you do a lot of taping, it doesn't work out as well. Yeah, like sometimes when you do double tapings of Raw and SmackDown, that SmackDown always is just utterly dreadful.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll do 2 Raws, and that second Raw that comes around is just not as good because they're entering hours 4, 5, and 6 of wrestling, and it's not as loud as it used to be.
And hey, Triple H said he would go back to 2 hours. So that was that. See, smart. I think the overall theme is that Triple H
gets what people
might be the better of two evils in terms of guy running things. He seems to at least be grounded in what's going on and being aware of the internet wrestling community.
And stuff. I mean, I understand why you'd want to, because you can be a little bit tighter on your focus and tell cleaner stories, but at the same time, how much money are you losing?
Yeah, that's true.
That's something that's going to be hard to be like, well, I don't know. Especially with the network. Because that's one of the reasons they moved to 3 hours, because they were launching the network, because they knew they were going to lose those pay-per-view buys. You have to get advertising money somehow.
Yeah.
Just my input on NXT as an alternative. That I think if it were on a network, it might actually be. It might draw more attention because again, back to everyone loves the Monday Night Wars. There were 4 alternatives to Raw. Mm-hmm. There was Thunder, there was Nitro, there was SmackDown, and there was ECW. There were 4 alternatives for people to tune into. And, now there is nothing, because SmackDown is kind of it's lost its thunder. Mm-hmm. It's not interesting. Nobody cares. And if you remember back,
there's something that SmackDown may become very interesting. But the rumors are Daniel Bryan saying, "I'm going to be a SmackDown exclusive wrestler."
He wants to
at
become
that point in time
the dude.
Then you start making SmackDown much more interesting.
A rumblings of a almost brand split again.
That,
if you're just gonna
when your hottest star is going to be on that show.
I mean, that leads into what I was going to say. I mean, if everyone remembers back in the early 2000s, SmackDown was the show to watch, not Raw.
Paul Heyman was booking and stuff, and SmackDown 6.
And because with the WWE, their roster is so huge, if you do actually split it down and say, all right, you're only wrestling on this show, you're only wrestling on that show, it might actually draw the fans of each respective wrestler.
Oh, yeah. I'm all for the brand split. I was a huge fan of the brand split. I don't know why they ever got rid of it, to be honest. I can't even think
There's just not enough time on the main stage of Raw to show all the wrestlers and give them enough time to develop their characters on screen.
Because I guess the 3-hour Raw kind of came not real long after.
Well, I mean, they killed it once SmackDown moved to Friday.
Yeah.
Once that network,
that's true.
Friday is where you send TV to die.
Yeah.
If you have a favorite TV show on whatever network, and let's say you like some crappy cop show, and it gets moved to Friday, that means it's about to get canceled.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
No
one watches
Friday.
TV on Friday.
This isn't the early 90s when Full House everything was ruling the airwaves, and you stayed home on Friday.
Yeah, the most watched shows are Monday and Thursday nights. Mm-hmm. Now, it being back to Thursday could be a thing.
I don't know. That
really could be.
I think that's there's a lot of coolness going on with that. I think it's interesting, even going back to the NXT thing, that you kind of have Triple H saying we might have created an alternative brand. We're thinking about throwing it on the road, and we all kind of were like looking at the Rumble saying, is Neville, or some of the, because a lot of times they throw out, get karate reactions. Maybe they're holding them back to NXT, keeping them on NXT.
After, because as much as he says there isn't off seasons, there isn't seasons. WrestleMania
day after WrestleMania.
Day after WrestleMania, somebody shows up. Somebody makes the debut. I mean, I almost like the Raw after WrestleMania more than WrestleMania because that's
it's always a good. Happen. It's always good Raw. And then for me, going back to this podcast, the biggest load of bullcrap ever was the CM Punk question.
That's trash.
Huh?
That was a trash question.
Yeah, and I
trash answer. The question was great. The answer was
Triple H is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my life. He just seemed to dance around. Oh, there's no beef. Blah blah blah. Whatever.
And you can see it anytime he's asking a question. Around that, he'd always kind of give it that slight pause. Like he was like, "How do you like Eddie Guerrero? Miss him. Best dude in the world. Miss him so much, his big heart. What about Goldberg?" And you can think it's my show. What's just going? Fuck that dude.
Forget that guy. I definitely thought that was crap. I thought that was stupid. I thought it was a stupid answer, and it definitely doesn't help whenever you're trying to almost do damage control, because it seemed like a lot of these questions might have been given almost to Stone Cold at times. Say ask us a lot about kayfabe being dead and how we book, and because we're going to make it sound like we were responsible for last year's WrestleMania, like that was our day one plan. It was always to, go this way, and that we're able to book and change things at will and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know that y'all do it that often though, and stuff like that. It seemed like they were trying to get on the side of the internet community, or the smart marks as they kept calling them. Us, I guess. They're trying to be on our side, saying, "Oh, no, we totally listen to you guys." And again, you're always like, not really, because Ziggler just came out to Ryback's music and kind of just played second fiddle to that guy.
But I think one of the things that you have to look at is, especially once Stone Cold brought up NXT, and Triple H immediately just changed his demeanor and was very much into that. And I think a lot of what Triple H is saying, it might have to do with some political stuff, but also has to do with maybe he's not wanting to piss off the guy who is above him. Mm-hmm. But I think that within that, it shows us that there is a possibility of a good future for WWE if it continues down that path that we've seen set in stone by Triple H at NXT. And the things that he talked about was, shortening the show, making longer burns for storylines, and then
Giving
also
the wrestlers freedom in their promos,
and freedom in the
stuff, allowing
promos,
them
and
to
also
be characters.
and also one of the big ones, giving women more time to actually develop characters, because that's just been a big thing in the Raw shows and stuff. It's just it's a joke now. And so.
In the future, we're probably going to dedicate an entire podcast to just women's wrestling, because that needs to be talked about. But that would take forever.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember the last time I actually cared about a Divas match.
Oh, yeah. And the Divas, just the word Diva is just stupid. It needs to be out of wrestling. But, okay, just closing up on this podcast. Is Kayfabe dead?
Yeah.
So Kayfabe...
Well, I mean, Triple H had a very interesting question. Like he said, it's dead.
Oh, for our listeners, Kayfabe is like the fake part of wrestling. It's just the fake.
Characters.
The characters. Is that dead?
And
Triple H would answer that early, saying, yes, it's dead, it's gone, here's how we do it. But then later on in the podcast, he talks about sometimes we'll release stuff and it becomes dirt sheet and people pick it up, and he called Grantland a dirt sheet. Like, what's wrong with you? But like he talks about playing it. People were saying, well, is this real? Is it not real? Are we mad at this guy? Are we pushing this dude? So kayfabe, in the extent, like you said, of back in the day, Roman would win the Royal Rumble and people would go, oh, Roman's the best dude in WWE. He won, so let's go for it. But now people watch that, but they also watch the stuff going on around it. Yeah. So kayfabe, I don't think has fully died. It's more just evolved. I mean, it's
almost like what Josh mentioned last week, Kayfabe 2.0.
Yeah, people are on Reddit and stuff trying to figure stuff out, because you're always trying to figure out what's really happening. Is this real? Is Daniel Bryan really being buried? Is Roman Reigns really getting the rocket strapped to his back and being pushed to the moon? So it's a different form of kayfabe, one that Vince doesn't understand, but it's still there. It's just different.
So you almost have Vince, who hates old school. If it's old school wrestling, he hates it. And that, by far,
my he hates NXT.
Favorite part of the podcast is Stone Cold always using the word wrestling, and like in your face way, like because he talks about, he's like, and I love the wrestling on NXT, and I'm like, yes, Stone Cold gets it. Stone Cold can buy this and run this, but you have this where Vince hates old school and stuff like this, but it's now evolved where kayfabe has now almost left the ring, and now kayfabe is being introduced backstage, and they're going to say, like, okay, now we're just going to kayfabe the backstage stuff as well.
Yeah, that's what's important now.
But somehow Vince doesn't get that, and it's just weird. It just seems like now Vince has got trapped and left behind, despite the fact that he hates being in the past.
It's kind of, it's different, especially now that we're talking about this new form of kayfabe. But I think the best way to kind of use it in terms of another example would be just the way we view like movies and stuff, like favorite actors, they get a push, and then there's political things going on, and so like we, on our other podcasts and stuff, we debate like who should get this role or who should get that role, and there's a lot of parallels there of, well, do they deserve it or have they worked hard? It's like, and it's interesting because it's like, well, like Triple H said, it's like, how do you say, well, this guy deserves it? Well, they're all working hard. They're all here for a reason, and so it's just a matter of, which guy has the whole package essentially. And
well, they talked about that. They talked about obviously the first question was about kayfabe and booking and kayfabe, and he said, at once upon a time, if we booked Roman to win something, that means he's the best. Now people are smart, and they use the word push. That kind of segues into talking about Raw. Mm-hmm. The opening segment, they almost were like operating outside of kayfabe, and like almost out like just short of using the word push. They were almost like they just brought backstage out and just said,
it's like he's been given opportunities.
Yeah,
things like that.
People hate you, Reigns. Was the segment was
You're
like
bad.
Okay, Reigns, everyone doesn't like you, so we need to fix this. It was almost just like they tried to bring what we view a wrestling meeting out, But I hope wrestling meetings are like that. I hope the writers are all in there and Rollins busts in and says, I deserve to be in Mania, and they go, oh, okay. And they just start erasing.
So if you really think about it, the Authority is probably one of the most influential heel groups in a very, very long time, and very smart, because they can always go back to what's best for business. Yeah. And Roman was what's best for business, and now it's like everyone hates him. It's like, well, you're not what's best for business anymore. It's very interesting because their motivations can change weekly, which is very interesting. It's usually just, we're evil. But now it's like, they're like, hey, dude. It's weird because they can actually listen to the crowd, do what the faces would do, which is put, put Roman Reigns' shot on the line and still come across his heels.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was a very different Triple H than we've seen in past authority angles. Because he just came out and was just like, you make sense. Yeah, I mean, I can see it from all sides, but this, and this. And then he was really more kind of passive in a sense. And he was just kind of letting them kind of argue it out. And he's like, all right, well, we'll just have matches. So go.
I think it's just been one long con on the part of Triple H, because when he joined the WWE back in the day with his character Hunter Hearst Helmsley,
the Blue Blood.
Yeah, then he joins. He's part of the Clique, which was kind of backstage, and then they bring it to the forefront. Then there's DX, and then he starts getting his own kind of traction on his own. Shawn Michaels, and then now he's slowly taking over even more with the Authority. It's like it's been a slow incline. I think he's just on his way to He's actually been working for Ted Turner all along. He's going to drive the company into the ground. He's going to just bank hard left and crash the ship into an iceberg.
That'd be awesome.
It's an interesting theory.
It's a great theory. He's like a criminal mastermind. Triple H is a Bond villain.
He's just going to destroy wrestling.
He's going to bring back his character from long ago, and he's going to
terrorizing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! If he just takes off the ball cap and it's just long blonde hair, and he just goes by terrorizing, which is what he wrestled under. Does at WCW? Oh, I'd be down.
That's what's going to happen.
Oh, that would break. That'd break the network. Man.
But it is kind of upsetting for me, especially with them finally putting the axe into kayfabe. At the beginning of Raw, that's if you're going to say okay, it's the end of the era. That's perfectly fine. But coming out and saying, hey, Reigns, you fucking suck, and last year, yeah, you were the shit, but guess what? You're not going to do it now.
What they should have done with Reigns is they should have Goldberged him when he went single. He should have just been running through
he was
30-second matches.
Yeah, but then when you miss 4 months,
that's true.
What are you going to do?
That's true.
So then they started putting him in front of a camera, and then everyone kind of found out, well, this dude can't actually speak or function in normal human life.
What is emotions?
I mean, he's like Goldberg. He's only got like 3 moves in his repertoire. I don't see him as a diverse, wrestler.
Yeah.
He's got Superman Punch, and he's got like 2 other moves.
Mm-hmm. But if you put him with the right wrestler, they can carry it. Like DDP Goldberg of Halloween Havoc '99. That's a good match.
It's one of the
because
DDP
matches.
Carried it.
DDP carried him through a great match. And you can every time Goldberg does a weird spot, you can tell it's uncomfortable, but DDP sold it, and it just turned out great. But yeah, so the opening segment, the interesting parts is you have the old school opening segment of everyone coming out saying, "I deserve this." It's a classic trope opening segment. They've done it a million times.
Which you said earlier, oh man, I hope this is really what it is like. You'd be very, very surprised how much that actually is.
What do you mean?
Like if they're writing stuff and Cena says, "Listen, I have to win." Like after he lost the belt to Lesnar the first time and got suplexed, and then the thing was he was supposed to have a competitive match with Bray, and he's like, "No, the kids have to know that I'm a Superman, that I can bounce back. I have to totally, utterly squash Bray."
Yeah,
and then he did.
He had to get that back. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, so these wrestlers. That's why Triple H just kept saying it over and over again. How much stroke do I have? These guys have stroke. They have in some amount of influence over what they're doing, and that's why some of the guys didn't like it. So I CM Punk quit.
Yeah, well, can't you see it from the other perspectives? I mean, that's what ruined the WCW is all of these wrestlers
too much ego.
having way too much control. Having too much control over your character. It's like with Cena. Okay, no, the kids have to know I'm okay. Well, let the kids know
Sell something.
Yeah, sometimes kids need to know. Oh, not everyone's invincible. Life is harsh.
If anything, if we're just going to use Cena as an example right now, it would have been infinitely more interesting to see a broken Cena.
Yes.
Who is down on his luck, and then goes not for a month, but for a good half a year, maybe even just not sure of himself, and then slowly building his way back up. Because then you bring back everybody. Because at the first half, we'll see everybody killing him. We're like, yes, this is what we want. We want him to lose. And yes, the kids are going to cry because, yes, kids cry. But then we'll see this resurgence, and by that point, then even during the Lesnar match, you still there was the smallest amount for even the people that were chanting Cena sucks, damn, like
Yeah.
he's getting killed.
Yeah, I think it was like on the 12th suplex.
Right,
I
you're just
started
like,
saying,
oh.
okay,
Oh, those
yeah,
really
ow.
hurt.
Yeah,
And-
that sucks.
But just imagine 6 months of that,
Yeah.
and then the build after that would
Coming back.
the slow burn.
Of actually overcoming his entire gimmick.
Yeah.
Like anytime anyone books him in a handicap match or just 3 guys, like, why do that? This is a dude you book against
all
the
odds.
entire roster and he just wins. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he does. Book him against a dude in a regular match.
Right.
You know, he has more trouble against that.
While we're talking about Cena, that's the other interesting part of the opening segment. You have Bryan coming out saying, "I never lost the belt. I was stripped of it,"
Yep.
which I cheered when they stripped him of the belt. I was super excited. I was like, yeah, like I was all for authority back then when they were stripping belts off Bryan, but but he comes out, proves a good point, but they say you didn't meet your contractual obligation, which doesn't work because Lesnar's like ruined the 30-day thing. But and then you have Rollins come out, and he does a great angle with I broke Lesnar's rib. I'm the one that's crippled the Beast.
Yeah. Yep.
I should have a shot. Of course, Rollins always comes out and does his job well.
Yes.
And
it kind of comes over more and more as a face.
yeah,
You know?
Slowly.
but Cena never shows.
No. 'Cause he's out.
Mr.
It's so
yeah,
weird.
That's the
It's
thing.
very
They
weird.
book Cena so weird, like Superman. But then, when everybody's out there saying I deserve a shot, and the belt's supposed to mean everything, where's Cena?
America.
Yeah, exactly. Cena's just decided F the belt. But it makes it look bad. It makes it look bad when Rollins comes out almost in a face move saying, I want the belt. And the belt's important to me.
But I think the thing that kind of is logical to say, well, Cena doesn't. It's just, we've seen Cena lose the belt, fight back for the belt, get his number 1 contender spot, and then lose again in the 3-way match. And so it's just even though he's only really had 2 bouts to regain it, I mean, there's been a good 6 months that have gone by, and it's just, and the whole storyline is about Cena trying to get his title back.
Yeah.
And so it's I think it's just logical to go, okay, he had a shot. Let's let these new guys get a shot, because you know what's going to happen after WrestleMania, and he either loses or beats Rusev. He'll probably beat Rusev, and then he'll come back for the title because he's like, I broke the man who was undefeated through a year or whatever. And so,
well, and then okay, another thing in the opening segment. Okay, Cena doesn't show up. I just thought that was strange. I was just waiting for the ba-ba-da-da the whole time. I thought that was going to happen. But it never came, and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Cena's just now content with, honestly, just fighting Rusev. I don't even know if the U.S. Championship's on the line because Cena hasn't mentioned it once, despite that's the belt that made his career.
I think it is on the line. So, they popped it up. During the
we'll get to that later. But I live down around Denton. I live in Von Erich territory half the time. So
the dead druggies.
Kevin's still rocking. But that's it. So I watch Raw by myself, but I'm usually texting Nick during Raw. I usually think I'm just bugging the crap out of Nick. I don't even know if he's even watching it. But I was like, Nick, are you watching this? Rollins kind of broke kayfabe on camera.
A little bit, yeah.
Did not play it off as well as he maybe should have. Because all I know is this things happen, then Rollins' music hits, his microphone's not working, it goes to commercial. And I'm like, you can't go to commercial mid-segment. And I'm texting Nick, I'm like, is your TV, am I missing something? I'm freaking out, because I thought commercial accidentally happened. But then they come back, and Rollins just kind of goes, live TV, and then goes into heel mode. And I was like, man, he's straight up broke kayfabe on live television.
Well, I think he did it towards Triple H, so it was still just it was being buddy with Triple H rather than being buddy with Daniel Bryan or something.
I thought it was strange.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it was just that's weird. Someone else maybe should have handled that Triple H, mentioning technically good, but I thought it was weird. It was a straight up, almost to me kayfabe break on live television.
I think it was just a recovery for their botch of the commercial break.
I guess. So that happens, and then the opening segment again. It was so weird. Again, they're in Colorado. They might have all been high legally, as far as I know, just because it was just weird. Triple H is being weird. Stephanie McMahon just comes out there. She's just trolling hard over the Super Bowl, getting some real good heel heat. I don't know what that has to do with Denver. They definitely were not in the Super Bowl, but cool. We have all that, and it's pretty much mostly kayfabe breaking-ish of Reigns, we hate you.
Right.
It's just, Reigns, you suck. So, obviously, they know it. Now they know that Reigns is going to go to Fastlane fight Bryan now at this point, because they made Rollins, Bryan do a great match. Winner gets to go to Fastlane. The title shot's on the line. We'll get to that in a second. The next big thing is on Raw is the Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Had such a great push.
Great push. He kind of had a rough 2014. He's coming out of the Rumble as the Iron Man of the Rumble, like longest dude, tied with most eliminations. Booked strong with Ziggler, though they had a great match because those two really just don't have bad matches. You know, they're two of the best performers. Now, I hated the ending of the match,
and I
love
the ending of the match.
Okay.
Chris Fury loves the ending of the match.
You state your case, I'll state mine. And
Okay.
Nick can be the judge.
Okay.
Right here.
All right.
New segment.
For one. Okay, now we're on Bray Wyatt, Dolph Ziggler match. Bray Wyatt's getting booked pretty strong because the rumor is going to Mania against Taker. Now I'm all for Wyatt going in strong.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Got it.
Again, though, why Zig? I mean, okay, I get Nick kind of pleaded a good case. Want Wyatt to look strong, so you want to put a great performer in there. Ziggler's a great performer. And that's cool. And they had a great match. I don't even think Ziggler came out looking necessarily bad of that match. It was a well done match. I hated the finish because Ziggler hits the Famouser. Mm-hmm. Bray, I felt no-sold it. He just popped right back up into the Sister Abigail, and I felt like that hurt Ziggler a little bit when someone pops out of your finisher immediately. Like, just no-sells it. Right now, I feel like Lesnar's the only guy on the roster that should be given that liberty to no-sell a finisher, because they're booking him as the immovable object, essentially.
The one in 21 and 1.
Exactly. So, but Chris Fury, you're calling it
rebuttal,
not necessarily a no-sell, right?
Counter argument. Zigzag is his finisher. Fairmaster's a signature move. So he got a signature move.
Okay.
Like he used his super kick, he uses Fairmaster as his setup signature moves for the zigzag.
Yeah.
That's how he wins matches, with the zigzag. That match had them just throwing bombs at each other, each hitting big moves back to back to back. Now Bray Wyatt's character isn't normal.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be normal. 2014 kind of screwed him because they made him normal. But that was no different than someone hitting Undertaker let's say Ziggler hits Undertaker with the Fairmaster, Undertaker's down, sets up. Everyone's, the setup!
Yeah.
It's like, because he's supernatural.
Yeah.
Bray has a bit of that supernatural to him. So to me, it doesn't seem like it was a no-sell. It seemed kind of like this is a monster.
Okay.
But still, he hit it. He hits Sister Abigail, and he kind of crawls and pins, and then he's sitting there going, like, breathing heavy after he gets the win. It's not like John Cena winning at Hell in a Cell, getting out, and then jumping, taking pictures of kids, and Randy Orton's all laying on the ground, and he shows up taped up, and John Cena's running around slapping hands. That, to me, is no-selling.
Yeah.
That was sold in a way it's like, how do you put this dude down if he's supernatural?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you have to, if you want to build Bray in that way, of this swamp monster demon dude, he has to have that about him. He has to be hit with a super kick, and him kind of shake it off, and then do a crab walk, and you're like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? And then Ziggler just got caught. I mean, that's how the story of that happened, was that he instead of hitting a Fairmaster, he should hit a zigzag.
Yeah.
And next time he hit a zigzag, I was like,
okay.
I'm gonna have to agree.
That's how I go.
I'm gonna have to go with Payton because of
You would.
It's more kayfabe
because he's the only wrestler at the table, so we're going with him.
Here's why. Because, the goal for them, for Bray Wyatt, is we have to make him a viable threat to The Undertaker. Yeah. How do we make him a viable threat? We have to put him in matches with people that are a viable threat to beat him.
Yes.
But he beats them. Ziggler looked good in the match, strong. Both look strong.
Ziggler's the new Michaels when it comes to losing.
Yeah.
He just looks good
and
losing.
The thing that they have to do is
Yeah.
present him in that monstrous way, like Payton's saying, is, Lesnar even mocked it during SummerSlam, where he just sat up and just started laughing. And that's a moment where you're like, oh God, oh God,
Yeah.
oh God.
Yeah.
And that's what they have to do. They have to make it believable because, it was... And I was going to say, did 2014 screw Bray Wyatt or did John Cena screw Wyatt?
Or did Bray Wyatt screw Bray Wyatt?
Cena, then Jericho. Jericho didn't try. It just didn't work. So I think we're all now on the joke that Jericho's here to just put people over.
That's the problem. It's like it would have been better if he had done something with a more current top tier person rather than Jericho, whose job is to put over somebody that's on the lower end of the card.
Yeah, the guy I put over right before was Fandango.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
And Jericho put over you.
It's just a weird time because the person he just fought was Dean, which they should not have done. They should have waited.
Yeah.
If you have two guys growing that way, you should have waited. Honestly, mine. But when Randy's out, Sheamus is out, Daniel is out, all your big established dudes were gone. So then all your young pups had the fight.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
now when Bray and Dean come back, it's not going to feel as special, to me at least.
Yeah.
But by then, hopefully in 3 years, there'll be different type of characters, and it may be different.
Well, okay.
Because let's assume that the idea is obviously to make Bray Wyatt the new Undertaker.
Yes.
If that's the case, I can't wait to see his American badass face.
Which is my favorite Undertaker face.
It's everybody's favorite Undertaker.
But if that's the case, and it comes up to, do you let the Undertaker lose to him? Do you make the Undertaker after going 21-0 to 2 losses in a row?
Yeah.
And the real question is Undertaker fit for one more match? Because we all know the match that we want him to do on the way out. So the question now becomes, okay, well, can we book Bray losing to Undertaker with him looking strong, or do we have to do it the easy way and let him have a good match with Taker, but come out as the new face of fear as he states himself to be?
Well, what we could do is just have Undertaker at 21-1-1. Like, just have
it could draw.
Yeah, it'd just be a draw match. That way it builds Bray Wyatt up to be equal to Undertaker, but not...
What I see it right now,
over.
just off that short promo that Bray did, it seems like Undertaker's going to beat him. Mainly because at no point in time did Bray say, I want to beat you. He said the same thing how he did with Cena and stuff. His goal was never to beat Cena, it was to unleash the hate or whatever. He's saying, I want to make you back into who you were. I want to introduce you back to the devil. I want to make you back to be where you were, this monster. Nothing was about... Because Shawn Michaels was like, I want to beat you. Triple H was like, I want to beat you. This dude's like, I want you to be this monster again.
It'll be the resurrection of the Undertaker post 21-1.
When Bray's handing John Cena a steel chair saying, hit me. It's going to be that kind of stuff.
It's going to be the Michaels clawing up and doing the throat slash thing, but Wyatt doing it, which would be cooler.
So, like, Bray Wyatt is going to be the new Paul Bearer?
Kind of.
I mean, Mankind. He's never going to be Undertaker.
And here's
he can be a Mankind.
Undertaker has something that no other wrestler has, and that is the post-match handshake.
Yeah.
The rare instances that's ever happened, that dude was made. So even if that happens at the end, and you do a good thing like that, where it's Bray's just saying, like, come on, hit me, they stand up, and there's even a handshake, Bray's over.
Yeah.
For life.
Yeah.
So even then... He lost, but Bray loses zero momentum if he gets even that handshake at the end.
Well, and the hard thing about wrestling Undertaker is that he wrestles, and it's kind of weird that he wrestles in this way. It's a King Road style. Google it. It's a Japanese style of wrestling. So if Bray only has one finisher, the match is going to be weird.
Yeah.
Like when you watch, and even the Shawn Michaels matches were kind of weird because he just kept hitting one finisher. But Undertaker has like 4 finishers. So, like, he can build them up, and, like, get them slowly building. That's the King's Road style is all about, like, hitting a move and overcoming it, hitting a different move and overcoming it, hitting a different move and overcoming it. So I could easily see breaking out a brand new move at WrestleMania to beat Undertaker if that happened or something like that. It's very interesting.
That's cool, yeah.
Looking at that kind of stuff.
I mean, he could start taking over Undertaker's moveset.
Yeah.
Because if he is going to take over this role, you could see, I could see Bray Wyatt, doing the throat slit and then trying to. Well, I don't know if he could even reach Undertaker's
Last
throat.
Ride or
doing something like that. But it is like with facing the Undertaker at WrestleMania. I can't remember a WrestleMania in recent memory, let alone my brain can't even think about WrestleManias 10 years ago. Of where I cared more about the actual main event than the actual Undertaker match.
Yeah.
Because that is the grand stage, a lot of people care more about like who is facing Undertaker.
That was the streak. That was the streak phase, like where that was really always the main event, and should have always been the main event. When the streak years were hot.
Yeah, when the streak became the streak was Randy Orton.
Yeah,
because he's the one who really mentioned it. Like you haven't lost
during the Legend Killer phase.
Yeah.
Type thing,
and then after that, it's off and running. It became its own thing.
And so like. Even has it been confirmed that he is facing Undertaker at WrestleMania?
It hasn't been confirmed. Undertaker's appeared on a lot of promotional stuff for WrestleMania that's kind of leaked out, and then obviously these promos. The only other person they could hit at, and this is my theory, is that Triple H is going to troll swerve. Everyone's going to be Kane.
Well,
and everyone's going to hate it.
Well, if Bray is in the match with Undertaker, he's already over.
That's true.
Because think about everyone that has faced Undertaker at WrestleMania, who is not over or not a superstar.
Giant Gonzalez.
Well, in the current.
Oh, okay.
Once the streak.
You're doing the streak years.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
No, that's true. Everybody's pretty much.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean that really got Mark Henry over.
Yeah. They tried. But
and the idea, like the rumor that Mark Henry was supposed to win.
Yeah.
Like there's that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Which is very strange.
Thank God that did not happen.
I love Mark Henry. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So we have that. Okay, y'all pleaded a good case with the Ziggler.
The correct case.
Okay, the correct case, I guess. I mean, I'm a huge Ziggler mark. Yeah. I'm a dude that I'm concerned with where Ziggler's going to be at Mania, and right now he's got nothing. And he just lost to Wyatt just to build his program by all means.
He'll have Reigns more than likely. Not Reigns, Rollins.
Rollins?
He's going to get that.
Or Orton will have Rollins.
Or Orton.
Is Orton?
Orton should be coming back. They keep saying Orton's coming back.
See, that was the other part of the opening segment. Orton was good and gone. Yeah. They actually haven't mentioned Orton in so long that his comeback was actually going to be if he had come back recently, it'd been a surprise. Last night, though, in the span of 30 seconds, they said his name about 8 times, so Orton's coming back sometime. Yeah. Next week, they'll say Orton 100 more times.
The rumor is, that Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler pushed for a match against each other because if they're not going to be in the main event or any of the top tier matches, they're going to be like, well, we're just going to have the best match anyway.
Yeah.
Well, which WrestleMania was it where it was a fatal 4-way?
The WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah.
It was dreadful. Where each McMahon had a team. Oh, God, that's so bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's to stop them from doing that again? Because
Rock botched the Royal Rumble finish.
Well, we've
him and Big Show. Yeah,
we've got Roman Reigns. We've got Rollins, who still has the Money in the Bank. We've got Orton, who still has a rematch clause. And we've got Cena, who will never give up. We've got Brock Lesnar. They're just going to turn this into a big, 6-man handicap.
It should be a Money in the Bank match.
That's swapping match.
The Money in the Bank is coming back and headlining WrestleMania.
They're going to put someone in a forklift
on
top and.
Okay, so we've covered all that, and Ziggler's a good segue into why. Is there still this makeshift stable of Ryback, Rowan, and Ziggler? How often do these Survivor Series teams carry over? Decide that we're still going to keep being a group?
It's the whole Authority storyline because it should have ended with them being Authority's gone, but then New Year's Eve or around New Year's Eve, Rollins made Cena bring them back, and so it became
which was the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you really think about it, Edge was one of the most despicable wrestlers of all time, who've multiply attacked Cena's family and stuff, and so before that show, before that segment happened, they show Cena and Edge backstage. Man, all that horrible shit you did to me, that was fun, wasn't it? Yeah, ha ha ha, we're best friends now.
Edge, we really need you to put over Cena in this segment and say you're buddies.
I think it would have been great. That's when Cena should have gone heel.
Cena should be no, do it.
No.
Finally, break rid of this guy.
That's what he should have done. That's when he should have went heel.
It's weird. Obviously, everyone hated the Authority being gone for, I think it was 60 days. So it wasn't even
a nice vacation.
When they came back, you're and then obviously... Kayfabe 2.0, and we're in the reality era, and they get brought back and they just happen to be backstage already.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other stupid thing. Is like, oh, they're already backstage. So it's just like, oh, come on.
Well, to answer your question about the Ryback, Rowan, and Ziggler team, I kind of like it because it is very much a hodgepodge of these three guys have nothing in common. They are not similar in any
Cena's
way.
what they have in common.
Well, they're all, it's the Super
Cena.
Friends.
Yeah, it is. It's like, if I were to pick a team out of the current roster, I'd probably choose those three at some point. Maybe not my top three, but I would certainly look into grabbing them because they're very diverse, the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just odd because the Authority seems to no longer really be they just seem to be offhandedly messing with them. And it's just because last night it's just like, oh, you're all gonna fight now, and it's just the typical like,
There was
what
no
is it?
stipulation. It was just
It wasn't a stipulation. It's just like Ryback. You're gonna wrestle Harper.
That seems like that's what's going to. It's now. It seems like thinking about it. It seems like that's what's going to be Fastlane. It's like a 3-on-3 tag.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, with those guys. And my only problem with it is, again, Rowan's flopped as a single wrestler. Rowan's going to be on the blacklist next year.
He
probably.
never was.
He's probably going to be wrestling in Japan in a year.
Harper is awesome.
Harper's doing good.
He's very athletic for a large man.
Yeah, Harper's great. I love Harper, and the cool thing is Harper's not hanging around with Big Show and them still. Like he's like
just doing his thing.
He's doing his thing, and that's where Rowan needs to be. My other thing is you have Ryback and Ziggler. Ryback's like freaking hot with the crowd. He's over. He needs a push again. In some capacity, needs some sort of singles push, but here he is. He's just hanging out with the Super Friends. And then Ziggler. Ziggler has been beating on the stupid glass ceiling for 3 years now. And every time they book him huge at Survivor Series, he goes over, and now he's just...
I got it. They are going to do a 3-on-3 tag, and it's going to be Ziggler who defeats Rusev. And then he gets a chance to win the United States belt.
Who cares about the United States belt at this point?
Not even Rusev.
Rusev doesn't care about the United States belt. But... Yeah, and that's my thing. It's again me being a Ziggler mark that I'm frustrated that he's just hanging out with these other dudes and not getting any sort of push, not working any sort of his own program like he should be. But it's just odd. It just seems odd to me that there's this post Survivor Series team just like they're afraid to not hang out with each other, and that seems weird. And I was telling y'all before this though, it's now like the ongoing joke seems to be like if you get in a segment with Cena and you call each other friends, you're about to go out that ring and die.
Yeah.
It
should be added to the horror movie rules.
It really should. Like, do not be caught in a backstage segment with Cena and him calling you best friend. Because you were done now.
Rowan had the touching moment where he said, "You're the first person to treat me like a human."
And then he goes out and he's just buried by Rusev.
Murdered.
And then, like the Edge thing. He's back there, we're best friends. And it's all... Then he almost dies.
Gets killed.
Like, he almost literally gets murdered in the ring. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just a new thing.
That's it, Nick. In our horror movie, John Cena's friendship is the killer.
And Ziggler had a great push, and then all of a sudden he just became best friends with Cena.
I think
so that push got murdered.
A big reason I think that they've kept them together is especially right now has to do with what we talked about, that there is a large amount of wrestlers right now, and there's not a lot of screen time. How better to deal with that than by saying, "Hey, we're just going to hang out with you guys?" And I think by splitting the brand could be a good answer to that, because then Daniel Bryan wants to be the face of SmackDown. Mm-hmm. Then you have Roman as the face of Raw, and then Ryback can go one way, Ziggler can go one way, and then all these, because we're oversaturated with baby faces right now. We need some heels, and I think that's the thing. So hopefully there'll be some turns, but not on the. Hopefully not Ziggler going heel. There needs to be it needs to level out, and it needs to divide up.
The thing is,
screen time.
All of our heels are all the Authority.
Yeah.
That's there are no singles heels, really.
Not
Rusev.
He's still kind of on the Authority side, though.
Well, they were bullied. That's kind of interesting. Like when they were bullied into being on the thing. I mean, she threatened, Stephanie threatened Lana about, you need to be on this team because all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're their own kind of thing. I mean, it's the whole idea of we're all heels, so we all like each other because we're all evil, and we're all faces because we all like each other because we're good guys. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that bothers me.
Kayfabe 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on from that, I just wanted to really grab about the Super Friends. I'm tired of seeing them. I think they all need to go their own separate routes, and Cena just needs to do his own program without them.
Can I bring up one thing of topic? Like,
what
is this the end of Mizdow? Like,
well, that's this next thing. We're now there's 2 cracks in the tag teams. The Dust Brothers are imploding.
Which Goldust breaking kayfabe by calling him Cody. It's,
like last year, he used to be Cody Rhodes. You know?
Yes, he did. But I mean, still, like,
I think that's more. I think that's more of a storyline angle where Cody has gone so far into the Stardust character that he's losing himself. And I think that's kind of the thing that they're going with.
Will we get Goldust out of his Goldust?
No. Well, kayfabe's dead. We all know that Dustin Runnels is out after WrestleMania. He's already announced that WrestleMania is his last go. And so I think that
I want him to win the belt.
There's this typical. Last year they tried to lobby hard for a Rhodes versus Goldust match, but then it didn't happen. Then they tagged up. We got Stardust, which I love Stardust.
I love their tag team.
I like Cody Rhodes more.
Love Cody Rhodes. You know how old Cody Rhodes is?
He's like my age or
29.
younger. Yeah, he's my age, 29. And
how old Dan O'Brien is?
30.
I think he's 35, 36.
30, yeah.
I mean, Cody's been on Raw for a long time.
He's been wrestling for a long time, and he's one of those dudes that I've wanted to go every year. The Rumble, I'm like, Cody Rhodes is going to win it this year.
He needs to.
Yeah,
he's a Rhodes. I mean,
if Stardust had won on Sunday, it just would have been like, this is freaking awesome because no one saw this coming. So I would have been all for it. But so they're showing us that cracks, and it's almost alluding to my worst fears that Goldust will just be passing the torch of a weird character on a Stardust, and we'll have Stardust, and he'll just be pretty much an elevation talent. He'll just be you're just going to put people over. You're 29, but you're done. Essentially, because Cody Rhodes is so talented.
So talented.
My favorite Cody Rhodes gimmick was the when he wore the corrective mask.
Oh, the dashing one?
Where it was like post-dashing, where Rey Mysterio 619 him, so he he's the best heel. He came out in the hood and was just talking about being disfigured a lot. Oh, that was so awesome. I hated that they killed that. It felt like one of those things where Cody Rhodes, you're getting way too over, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
You're done. And Nick showed me a meme one time with Cody Rhodes, and it was it showed Cody Rhodes. It showed the mask Cody Rhodes. It showed the mustache Cody Rhodes. And it showed Stardust. It's like every time they give me a gimmick, I get over.
This is true.
Because it's true. Cody Rhodes, he's gimmicked out every time, and every time he just gets over. So yeah, I'm a huge Cody Rhodes fan. I'm all for a WrestleMania match with Goldust. I think that'd be cool. I think Goldust deserves a WM send-off. Yeah. You know, he's been one of those dudes that's just been awesome. And for some reason, in his 40s, he's like the best he's ever been.
It's like DDP. I mean,
yeah, Goldust is freaking awesome. And I think that's cool. But Ms. Dow, what are our thoughts there?
I can finally start liking the Miz again.
Okay.
The little promo and stuff he did, he's like saying, "Stop mocking me, stop doing it. You're just a personal assistant now." The Miz, before he all got kind of screwed over, was like the hardest working dude in that company. Mm-hmm. Like when you're doing all the stuff, doing all the late night stuff, doing all the interviews, and he was getting better as a wrestler. Now he's still missing the Usos when they jump off the ring and stuff because the Usos are stupid. But Miz is a good character. And he's very hateable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost made Alex Riley. You know?
Oh man,
Alex Riley was so bad.
Yeah.
And he almost got made just because people wanted to see him beat up Miz.
Yeah.
I mean, Miz is so
good
at his job at getting people over by one. He got Daniel Bryan. He was one of Daniel Bryan's first heels and stuff. Got Daniel Bryan over. And so it's cool. And then during the match and stuff, you can see him constantly looking, like checking to see if Mizdow's copying him or not. And like has him in a headlock, but he's just staring out at Mizdow the entire time, smiling like, you're not doing anything. That's all right. And
so essentially, Sandow's about to go over because he's such a good heel.
Yes. Sandow's going over again.
Yeah. Well, I may have said this last week. Me and Nick went to Raw in Dallas a few weeks ago when Sting showed up. That's right, we were there.
Freaked out.
Freaked the crap out. But I hate the Miz. I just don't like him as a wrestler. I hate that he main evented WrestleMania once, and all this stuff. I'm kind of one of those guys. But I remember telling Nick on the way home, it's like he was the best heel live, because he was just interacting with the crowd, just booing him, and he's just like getting in everyone's face, and he's like, and he's not matching, he just like goes to the crowd for the. And I was like, he was such a good heel live. Like Miz is a great classic wrestling heel.
I mean, I've always liked the Miz. I've never really harbored any dislike for him. As a heel, he's an excellent heel. I've always liked him. And when they teamed him up with Sandow, now Mizdow, I thought that's a great gimmick for Sandow, and it gives the Miz that much more to hate about him. He's so obnoxious that he thinks he needs a stunt double.
Yeah.
And now that he's breaking up the tag team, I love this, because now it's now we're going to see, really Sandow try to stand out on his own while still doing the Miz gimmick.
Yeah.
And it's like the Miz putting over Sandow.
Yeah,
even though Sandow's already over. And it's...
Yeah. It'd be very interesting for the Miz goes, because if they wrestle and Sandow beats the Miz using Miz's moves, let's say they wrestle at Fastlane. For some reason they put a match Fastlane, and Sandow beats the Miz using Miz's moves, and then at WrestleMania wrestle again. The Miz has to do different stuff that Sandow has. Sandow's like, what are you doing? I've been copying you for 6 months. You've never done this move before.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to see how Miz's character reacts to this whole talented Mr. Ripley type of storyline.
Yeah, definitely. No,
I mean, it could be a possible chance to give Miz a face turn, which I know we just talked about.
That can't happen.
There are way too many
That's
faces.
that's not him.
He can't have a face.
But I mean, it could.
If he cuts the Mohawk, maybe.
Yeah. I'm just like proposing it, because it would give him this character turn. It's like, who am I now that this guy's doing all my moves?
Yeah.
People love him more than they love me. What am I? And then that could, give the audience that much to maybe get behind.
It reminds me, just randomly right now, of what Mick Foley, Mankind, used to do in, he was Cactus Jack time at ECW. Because right now, Miz is keeping Mizdow from doing stuff which the crowd wants to see, which is causing them to boo Miz. When ECW, Cactus Jack, they'd be like, they want hardcore, they see all that stuff, and he'd just put people in headlocks.
Yeah.
And do the most boring matches all the time. And he'd just get booed so bad because the people knew he was a super hardcore legend, but he wouldn't give him a single thing. Period. He just wrist locks and arm takedowns and stuff, and just wouldn't give them what they wanted to see. And now Miz is doing that. It's like the idea of holding back something. It's being very well done. As much as I criticize WWE writers for not knowing how to do small things, this is a very good small thing they're doing.
On the flip side of the Miz, on Mizdow, one thing that was brought up to me, I think it was in an article I read or something, was they could take Mizdow and let him be that kind of guy who, okay, what does he do after he beats the Miz? What if he becomes that guy who just steals moves from people, and each feud he gets into, he's using their moves against them?
And I think Sandow is a talented enough wrestler to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he would be able to adapt his own moveset to incorporate anyone else's safe finisher.
Because the question really is, where does Mizdow or Damien Sandow go after the feud with the Miz is over with?
Has that ever been anyone's gimmick before? They just take everyone's finisher?
Eugene,
he just took everyone's finisher.
he used to hit leg drops, stunners, rock bottom. He took all the famous people's moves.
But did he do it against just those specific people?
No.
Because you could, it could be
Probably,
the sense where
I haven't seen it.
he's almost copycatting them to a sense.
Yeah,
and
it'd be cool if
Jericho won his moves with other people, the 2 times he did a
oh
rock
my
bottom.
god!
Oh god! Kayfabe, it's dead! Look at you! This podcast room, so no phone.
Sorry, it's my alarm to go to work.
Oh
Sorry.
god!
Kayfabe again. We're supposed to see the rich swank people running the podcast.
Okay.
Segue.
The
new thing.
Yeah. So we covered Miz, we covered Mizdow and all that stuff. I would be all for seeing Sandow have a gimmick where he pretty much Shang Tsung'd everyone, and just if he was wrestling, Daniel Bryan tried to hit the yes lock or something,
or just doing the yes chant.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, but do it in almost a less comedic way.
And after the match, he steals their soul, right?
Yeah, almost make it just like the cocky celebrity, or professional athlete. Almost steal the everyone does the Johnny Manziel money sign to him and stuff, and then have him go up to Cena and do this and. He'd be a good kind of heel, even though he's kind of face turning.
Right.
So that happens. I hope Goldust Stardust goes to WrestleMania over that, personally, because I know that card will get booked up pretty quick, and they're probably not going to have 2 split tag team matches.
It might have to be a pre-show something.
I would hope Goldust and Stardust can get actually on the actual
main
WrestleMania,
show.
just because Goldust deserves it, and Cody Rhodes deserves it. Cody Rhodes deserves to be in something that's not a tag match or a battle royale.
Yeah.
Then I guess lastly for Raw, the only other thing to really talk about, and my favorite part of Raw, was Curtis Axel coming out. And I thought for a second he was going to do it. I thought Curtis Axel was going over for a second. I thought he came out and was saying, "Hey, I never got eliminated." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Nick, they're doing it!" I'm like texting like, Axel's going to get himself in WrestleMania. Then Ambrose comes out. Super over, tosses him out, does the good, you're eliminated line. But then he demands an IC title shot. I loved it. I want the Intercontinental belt's my favorite belt, by far. It is my favorite of the belts. It was refreshing to see a wrestler demand a title shot for that belt, especially when you're just so used to people demanding and rematch clauses, all this stuff over the world titles. It's cool to see Ambrose come in and say, "I'm in line for the Intercontinental belt."
And part of me doesn't like it because it's like they don't know what to do with Dean right now.
Yeah.
They don't have a story for him, so let's just have him wrestle for the IC title.
Well, I'd rather see him in that than a battle royal like
true.
Andre.
He's got to have something on.
Yeah.
And him and Barrett can have a really fucking good match.
Yeah.
So I'm all about it.
I just hope that this is a step where maybe maybe Trips or Vince or someone back in the back is actually now like officially caught on to the IC titles become a joke to the smart fans. It's now there's now considered the IC title curse, that if you're the champion you have to lose all your non-title matches because it makes somehow winning it finally seemed good. No, it just sounds like you got lucky once, really.
Yeah.
Whereas they need to treat it like the world title belt, where they build up number one contenders, put people to that belt, and make that belt mean something. Because if I'm not mistaken, back in the day, the IC title belt meant you were number one contender to the world belt. Is that correct?
No, I mean, but you're booked as the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
Like when, I think maybe you're seeing that because you're thinking Ultimate
Warrior.
Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior, he got his title shot. I always just thought it meant which I mean, if you're number 2 guy,
someone who did that was TNA. TNA said if you won the X Division belt, you could either be the X Division champion or forfeit the belt and take a shot.
Yeah,
and that's how Austin Aries got his world championship over in TNA.
Well, I like that.
It's a very cool idea.
And they should treat some of the belts like
so
this.
then it becomes like a Money in the Bank type of situation, but with a belt. So then people can actually want it, because it actually is used as a stepping stool. Used to, the IC belt was that first rung in the ladder. Now it's just kind of a thing to put on people.
Well, Dean Ambrose is my current favorite wrestler, even more so than Ziggler. He's by far my favorite wrestler.
You mean Gene Ambrose?
Yeah. He's by far my favorite wrestler. So I hope to see really awesome things from him in the future. I hope he goes over. I don't think he was ever meant to go be this over. But I like him. I like that he's doing. He's not really face nor is he heel. I guess he's just kind of.
He's always been that wild
crazy
card kind of person.
He obviously gets compared to Austin a lot. That he just kind of goes in, does whatever he wants.
I've seen him more as a Piper. I think a lot of people see him more as a Piper.
I like it. He's just kind of the lone wolf guy. Does his own thing. I would like to see him get an IC title run. He obviously had that awful U.S. run.
Yeah,
because every U.S. run's been awful.
They just don't defend it. They just don't defend belts.
And that segues into our last topic, titles.
Yeah.
Do they mean anything anymore?
The one that does is, the big one means something.
Yeah.
And that's the only one. And you can even make the argument right now that the big one doesn't mean anything. It's mainly, can you beat Brock Lesnar?
Yeah.
They built him up to such an unbeatable monster that the belt, he doesn't need the belt. If he's now the Undertaker Street.
Yeah.
Can you beat this dude?
Yeah.
And I would even say the world title's not even that big of a thing. The NXT title is something that's wanted for. Those matches have been very good.
Yeah.
All the NXT and now they even have a tournament for a number. I just love tournaments. Why can't more people have tournaments?
WrestleMania 4 is one of my favorites because it's a tournament for the belt.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, with
And Savage went over.
Yeah.
with Lesnar, it is like, can you defeat this guy rather than can you get the belt from him?
Yeah.
That's why I think Undertaker needs to just come out beat the crap out of Lesnar and then throw Ziggler's body on top of him. So, yeah, here you go, you win.
I would freak out. I'd mark out so hard for that finish. But and there's things that you bring up Undertaker and the streak for many years was bigger than the title. In a sense, it was.
Do you think
whoever beat the Taker was going to be the biggest thing ever, and obviously they did Lesnar. Then they threw the title in there, and I agree that beating Lesnar is almost bigger than necessarily getting the belt right now. But I hope to see in the future, especially as Tripp seems to get more and more influence, these belts be reestablished as things that mean something. Especially, the U.S. belt's a weird belt, but if you look back on it, that's the belt that made Cena.
Yeah.
Cena went over because of that U.S. belt.
Spinner and all that stuff to it.
But that's because they made that belt look important, and it made it look important when he won it. The IC belt, it had such an awesome lineage, but now it's just been it's become the mid-card belt. It needs to be reestablished as the number 2 guy in the company belt.
Well, all the belts have been tarnished in some way.
Well, yeah, and that's true, but it doesn't mean we can't start rebuilding them in a positive way. I mean, gosh, David Arquette held the world title once, and that tarnished it to a degree.
I think he deserves to go into the Hall of Fame.
Celebrity wing.
Probably will one day go into the celebrity wing of that Hall of Fame. Probably before Andy Kaufman and Cyndi Lauper. But
I would have made a joke probably before Macho Man, but unfortunately they botched that joke.
Yeah, he's going in. That's exciting. But I'd love to see the titles reestablished. And then my other question, I debate this with Nick often, is should they bring some titles back? Because there's really only 3. You have the tag titles, but the tag division right now is such a joke because you only have one babyface team. Well, I guess 2 if you want to count the New Day freebirding in a bunch with the 3 guys. But would you bring any other titles back if you could?
I personally wouldn't at the moment, especially if you're wanting to. Say your number one idea is to give prestige and importance back to this belt. The one thing that can dilute that is adding more belts.
More belts.
So, first of all, before you add anything, fix what you have.
Yeah.
Set that hierarchy, and then put feuds based around those belts. And then maybe if something crazy happens, then you can add a hardcore title or something like that. But for right now, they have to have that thing.
I think I agree with Payton, and the belt I would go for next is not cruiserweight. It's not a hardcore belt. I would say what needs to happen is a women's tag team belt. Because a lot of the big issues with the Divas division is they don't know what to do with them. If they're not facing off with the champ for that month, you're not really relevant at all. And there's already you could easily just pair off all of them, whether they're on Total Divas or actual wrestling divas, into groups. And so a lot of them could be tag teams when they're not fighting for that singles championship.
No, I would agree that there needs to be a women's tag.
Yeah.
It would give purpose to all the other divas when they're not feuding against Nikki Bella or Paige or something.
Yeah, to me, it's an idea. You had a bunch of people, but most of those people, most of the diva stuff, they get their airtime on Total Divas, and that's what they're there for and stuff.
Yeah.
To me, if I were to add a belt, it would be Zack Ryder's internet belt. And then you do for every single title defense, the social media, what they vote on a stipulation or something like that to give it a twist and not just a belt. It's something that comes with something. So if someone's wanting that,
the internet belt was a good idea. It looks stupid and it needs to not look. Stupid. Yeah,
it's a great idea, and they crashed it because someone else thought of it.
Yeah,
and that's the sad part.
And that was an interesting belt.
If the internet belt was like Taboo Tuesday, just as a belt. That'd be really interesting.
That would be interesting, and I would actually go for that.
I mostly agree with everything that's been said. The prestige.
Awesome, thanks.
The prestige needs to be added.
That's why you're here.
Added back.
Good, yes, man.
But the hell no. No. But yeah, I would definitely consider bringing back the hardcore belt.
Yeah.
Because we already have this kind of rumblings of a hardcore division, essentially, because we've got Ambrose, who is absolutely hardcore, and then there's Wyatt, who we know can take a bump, and then of course Randy Orton is not afraid of shedding a little blood. So I mean, you've got all these great guys that'll really go at it in a match and know how to carry each other and carry everyone.
I'll crush that dream now. It will never happen.
I know
because of the not just PG. I mean, them trying to be in front of. And CM Punk bringing it forward on this podcast, trying to do concussion protocols and try to do more healthcare stuff. They just can't do. They can't say we're going to do that and then say, "All right, guys, go blade your foreheads and jump off this 20-foot ladder." Every month.
I know that, and that's why, unfortunately, it won't happen. But that would be the only belt I'd actually care about bringing it in.
And then I guess lastly, I do wish that all the belts came with something other than just necessarily being champ. I mean, I think obviously if you're the top, and that's great. You're the world heavyweight WWE, whatever that long title is now. You're the top guy. But I would love to see if the Intercontinental meant like you have that X Division type thing where the Intercontinental like I'm number 2 guy, I'm next in line, and if I win, the IC belts forfeited and held tournaments, stuff like that. And even the US belt could be the same thing just for that IC belt. I mean, the US belt, that thing might be so buried so low now because the last few guys that have held it, they kind of didn't care about it. They didn't go around bragging about being the US champ. It was rarely ever defended. Cena hasn't mentioned a desire to be the US champion.
No.
And he's going into this. And there's no like a normal fire like I'm the champ, I'm here, and it's just this thing Rusev's carrying around, which, by the way, the flag malfunctioned Monday night, and Rusev played it off super well.
Him being angry about it, watches it going down, and grabbing his own flag.
Rusev and Landon, like, they went with that. That was good. Yeah. I had to give props to that before because the flag malfunctioned, and they handled that super, super well. And even when you have a Russian, Bulgarian, whatever heel carrying that, they haven't really rubbed that in the face that he's the U.S. champ.
Right.
It's like that belt, it might be buried so low that it just has to go away and stuff like that. And an internet belt would be a really great, fantastic, I think, addition to that. And then I even think the NXT belt should carry weight. That if you hold it X amount, you're getting called up.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like, okay, I've been in it. Because that brings so many good storylines. Like, Sami Zayn's been NXT champ 11 months. If he can make it one more month, he's called up. And then you could, like, have someone screw that or something like that. Or you could have to tally so many months as NXT champ. Yeah. It'd be cool. But aside from that, that's all I got. Raw was interesting, to say the least. They definitely kickstarted their road, or I guess what they're calling now the fast lane, to WrestleMania. But I guess we're out.
Tap out.
Are we tapping out?
We're tapping out.
Oh, we forgot to think of a good exit line. Our bad. We were busy this week.
That was it. We're working, you guys.
Armbar.
Armbar.
We'll see you next time.